Hey guys, Khan here, making a Warhammer 40K Primarchs tier list. I know tier lists are all the rage right now, but I haven't seen anyone do any Warhammer 40K ones, and especially not Primarchs one, which I thought would be super cool. So I made my own on Tier Maker. I'll put a link in the description, maybe a pinned comment as well, and you guys can check it out and make your own. After I post the video, and just post a comment, let me know, and I'd be happy to check it out. But so I'm going to be ranking these on my interpretation of kind of like their relevance to Warhammer 40k, and mostly in like the Horus Heresy. I've read a lot of like the Horus Heresy series and a lot of 40k novels in general. So I went ahead and put all their little names next to their faces here in case anyone's not super familiar with them. But let's see. Do I want to go in order or just randomly pick it out? I guess let's start with Magnus, I guess, for no apparent reason. So Magnus, you got that one-eyed Thousand Sun chapter leader. Strong psyker. He's actually pretty relevant to things like he had the whole what was it, the Council of Nicaea or something like that, where they banned psychers, and he was like on trial there, and that was like set up to purposely weaken the empire by banning all their magic use. And he tried to save Horus, like when he was being like tempted by chaos, and then ultimately he did break through like a psychic barrier of the Golden Throne and kind of like unleash demons accidentally on Earth when he was trying to warn the Emperor about Horus. And then he did turn into a chaos like demon lord, I believe, later. I'm actually reading a book right now that'll probably tell me more about that, but he's pretty involved in the plot. I'm kind of leaning towards like an A or B in terms of his relevance to the Horus Heresy. But I think he's pretty cool. I did enjoy reading the Thousand Suns novel. I'm going to put him there for now. We could slide him down. We'll decide. Once we get more in here, we'll adjust, I think, later. Horus, I mean, the Horus Heresy is named after him, so he's definitely going to be up there. Yeah, his was pretty interesting. He had the Luna Wolves was his original chapter. He became the War Master after the Emperor went back to Earth to work on the Golden Thrones project. Yeah, obviously he got wounded by an anathema, I think you call it, this like sword thing that was strong enough to kind of like weaken him and gave him like a wound he couldn't heal from, and then he went through this whole stuff to twist him to starting the Horus Heresy. And so I mean, you have to throw him, if we're ranking this purely on importance to the Horus Heresy and Warhammer 40k, I mean, that's like the biggest thing in the 40k universe is the Horus Heresy and unleashing chaos on the Empire, right? So you can't not put him at the top. I mean, even if you take that out, he's still like the War Master and he's important. So we'll throw him up there. And I feel like I have to make a separate list after this of just like my personal opinion of like ranking them, but we're just going to go on importance for this one. Just because I feel like I could spread some like sprinkle some lore in there as well as I'm trying to do. Let's see, Vulkan is a pretty chill dude. Oh yeah, I didn't say. So he had Luna Wolves. He had then they became the Sons of Horus after he became War Master, and then they got a chaos name that I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But yeah, they went chaos. Vulkan. You have the Salamanders. Obviously he comes from like a volcano. Well, not obviously, but I was going to say he has the darker skin. He comes from like a volcano world, and I think they have like red eyes as well. But yeah, he's pretty chill. He was at the Istvan drop site massacre, which was one of the big opening things in the Horus Heresy, where a bunch of loyal legions get wiped out by traitor legions in a big betrayal. But yeah, and then he finds out each of the Primarchs have their own little thing that makes them special. His ends up being that he's immortal. So I think it was he gets captured after the drop site massacre, and like his legion gets mostly destroyed. But I think I'm pretty sure it's Curze was like just messing with him and just like torching him, and he can't die. But it just kind of like messes up his, kind of drives him insane, even though he's immortal. But in his relevance overall, not super, I don't think. I'm saying like D or E. I'm going to put him in E for right now, just because overall he gets taken out pretty much immediately. So in the drop site massacre, that's as early as you can in the Horus Heresy, pretty much. So we'll put him there. Well, if you're going just on order of precedence, I think Magnus was just possibly destroyed before that, but we'll get there. Okay, so Corax, another one that was taken out in the drop site massacre, and I honestly haven't read too much about him. I don't know what else he really has done. I'm sure I'll get to a book eventually, but I've read quite a bit and not really much encountered him, other than like referenced briefly in some. But he's the Primarch of the Raven Guard, and again, the Raven Guard in what I've read hasn't come up too much, so I'm just going to put him down here at the bottom as not doing much. And while we're on the topic of not doing too much, Ferrus Manus of the Iron Hands, he seems pretty cool. You think for being the Iron Hand and being like the big like tech marine type space marines that he'd have more augmentations, but he seems pretty not augmented in the facial region. Maybe he has an Iron Hand. I can't remember. That would make sense. But yeah, we got him. He is the first Primarch to die, I think. Like I was saying, if this was before that, technically maybe Magnus is killed when Prospero is attacked by the Space Wolves. The Emperor sanctioned the Space Wolves to just go and obliterate the Thousand Suns. Before even all the Horus Heresy gets revealed and is in full swing, that happens. So maybe kind of technically Magnus, but he didn't die, so we'll ignore that. But Ferrus Manus dies first in the Isfahan drop site massacre. He's kind of pissed at Fulgrim? I think Fulgrim. Yes, Fulgrim. So he's pissed at Fulgrim, and he goes and he fights him in one-on-one combat, is defeated and beheaded. So I'm going to bump him down into not affecting the Horus Heresy much since he died immediately. Just pull out, I'm not sure I pronounce his first name, like Roboute. That's how I like saying it. If I'm wrong, don't correct me. So we have Guilliman here of the, you know the boys, the Ultramarines. So he wrote the Codex Astartes. That's super important, obviously, all the way 10,000 years later into Warhammer 40K. It's still important to the Space Marine legions. After like a big warp storm during the Horus Heresy, he founded like his own tiny empire. He had like the 500 worlds of Ultramar or whatever, and he made his own little empire out of that when they lost contact with everyone else and didn't even know if like Earth and the Emperor were still alive or out there because they were so cut off. But yeah, he's super important. Let's put him at A tiers. Maybe I'll bump him down to B for now. I'll put him as A just because he has like a lasting influence as well, and he's alive during it. He fought, I guess he fights Curze, Konrad Curze, the Night Haunter, on his planet when he comes to Ultramar and attacks. He fights, who's he fight? Lorgar. I just read that recently. He fights Lorgar on Calth. That was a really cool battle. I guess I'll get into that when we get into Lorgar. So yeah, I think A is good for him. Mortarion. I don't know super much about him, but he's kind of like a weird. From the books that have referenced him in it, which is just like the book about the Khan. He seems kind of at odds. Like he kind of like has always hated all the other Primarchs and the Emperor. Just like, I don't know. Just he grew up on some like evil kind of world ruled by warlocks and was like the adopted son of one, and I think he killed his father, and then I don't know, the Emperor showed up and he always hated him kind of. But he didn't really like the Chaos Gods either. He was just kind of like joining in because he hated everybody, it seems. But what is he, the Death Guard or something, I believe. But he's slightly relevant. Put him, he's about that relevant from what I've read. And I by no means read all of them, but I've read a significant amount. We got Khan here. So Khan becomes slightly more relevant. His book's pretty interesting. He kind of like was during the onset and a kind of a good portion of the Horus Heresy. He was kind of way out on the fringes of the Empire. He's like known for doing his own thing, and he is like fighting orcs and stuff. And then he comes back. He's like cut off by like warp storms and hasn't heard anything from it or whatnot. And he comes back and he's getting like bombarded with messages from both sides, loyal and like from Horus and other chaos like Space Marine legions. And he's not sure who to trust, but ultimately sides with the Emperor kind of. And he has to fight Mortarion as well. In what I've read so far, he's not super important. I'll just put him right there. Russ is actually super important as well, and he's kind of like he's the Space Wolves. Space Wolves are definitely important all the way to 40K. I'll put him as here too, just because he's kind of like bred to be the Emperor's executioner and his war dog, and just be like, oh, we need you to just destroy this, and then be like, okay, we'll just destroy that, no questions asked. So I'm gonna put him up there. I guess it's debatable between A and S, but I think just he's involved in a lot of it. So like he took out Magnus, he's fighting everybody. I'll put him up there. Space Wolves are important. Curze, what is he? He's in the drop site massacre. He's torturing Vulkan. He's attacking Ultramar. He's doing lots of stuff, and he's the Night Haunter is his nickname. He seems I forget exactly what his thing is, but I don't know. He seems to not like himself and not like his legion and not be happy most of the time. But he's crazy and he's pretty strong and gets weird chaosy powers. Let's see. I wish that they would tell me what I'm looking for. I was trying to look up something real quick about him. Oh well, it doesn't matter. So we'll put him there. He's mentioned a lot. He does little stuff. He's not important to the overall thing. Alpharius of the Alpha Legion. I don't see them mentioned too much. I think ultimately Guilliman and his legion destroy them. I'll just put them down here as well. Lorgar, super important as well. I'll put them up here just because, you know, they have like the Dark Prophet, and they were like the first to fall to chaos because like they got too religious with the Emperor, like worshiping him as a god, and he was like, no, don't do that, guys. Come on, calm down. And they didn't like that, and then they eventually went to chaos to kind of like fill the void of their need to worship something, and then they ended up corrupting Horus, and yeah, it's kind of all their fault. So I'll put them in an A. They kind of caused it, and they attacked Cal. They were like, did a surprise attack. Like Horus, after the Horus Heresy was, I guess, still happening. The Isthmian massacre might have happened already, but yeah, so he called Guilliman and Lorgar to like work together and go on an orc crusade to go fight them, and to go to like one of the Guilliman's legion's big planets of Calth, and then Lorgar just did like a sneak attack on his legion and just like destroyed a huge chunk of the Ultramarines in one shot. Kind of did like one of those in the last like Star Wars movie where they just went to, I don't know, light speed or whatever they call it in Star Wars, and just like hit that whole Empire fleet and blew it up or whatever. They kind of did that, except they just hit the planet and blew up a huge chunk of it and all the spaceships in orbit. So we got Angron here, and he is just kind of like Warhammer 40K's version of Bane. He is pretty, just an angry dude, you know. He's just, I think he was like a gladiator or something on his planet, and they pump him full of chemicals, and I think he keeps the chemicals on, if I'm not mistaken. But he's just very angry. Kind of becomes just like a I don't know, a lapdog for Horus, because he's just like, I got people for you to kill. And then Angron's like, okay, that's cool. And he's from the World Eaters. But he's involved in things. He's by his side. Tempted. A lot of people are going in E. Just put him in there. And then I'll bump up some of these to D, maybe. Dorn. Dorn's important. Let's see. Where do we want him? Put him in B for now. So he's of the Imperial Fist, and he gets called back with the Emperor to just make Earth into one big fortress. Just build up the crap of Terra's defenses. And that's what he does, because that's what they specialize in. So he's very important in the Siege of Terra and defending that. So put him there. Fulgrim is another one to fall super hard into chaos. I think I'll put him here. And he tries to bring Ferrus Manus over to his side. Doesn't work, and he ends up killing him. And then he feels so bad about killing a fellow Primarch that well, I guess I should start a little bit before that. While wiping out an alien like lizardy species, I think, on an alien planet, he finds like this sword, and I guess it has like a demon in the sword or something, and it just kind of like whispers to him and corrupts him, kind of like Warcraft 3 style. And honestly, he kind of looks like Arthas a little bit, so it kind of has that same story plot going, and he just kind of becomes full evil, feels bad about killing Ferrus, and then just kind of like accidentally like gives up his soul, and then turns into like the first like demon Prince Primarch. So we'll put him at C. That's an argument could be made to bump up to B. We could switch these two, but we'll see. We'll just keep going. Lionel Johnson. What is he? The First Legion, very secretive. But I don't know if he's ultimately that important. The Dark Angels. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm going to put him down here. In what I've read, he hasn't really done too much. I've read, most of what I've read about him is like his planet that he comes from, which is kind of like, reminds me of like a steampunky type thing, because it's like they're living in the medieval ages, but they still have like leftover like prototype like power armor and bolt guns and stuff from like early human civilization there, and they're on a world with like big monsters and stuff, kind of like Monster Hunter maybe, I guess. So we'll put him there. I feel like this E tier is like heavy. We'll bump some up. So Sanguinius, I'll put him. I haven't read too much. I'd really like to read more about him. He seems interesting. He's the angel. He has legit angel wings on his back. How glorious is that, right? I'll put him up here though, because he's involved in like the battle over Earth with like the Emperor and him and Horus, and I think he takes like a lethal blow from Horus, but like saves the Emperor or something. So that's pretty cool. You can't argue with that. But he's the Primarch of the Blood Angels. And they have that blood like droplet as their symbol. So I guess I'll put him up there, just because if you're going to save the Emperor's life, that's pretty cool. And Perturabo, I don't hear much about him either. What is he? The Iron Warriors. They're kind of like, I think they're just like defensible as well. They're kind of like the counterpart of like Dorn. But yeah, I don't know. After the Isvan drop site massacre that they're a part of, I don't hear too much about them. So yeah, do we want to move any of these other guys up? Khan's kind of cool, but I mean, he hasn't really done much that affected the overall thing. Neither of these guys, I mean, they're involved in it. Vulkan gets taken out, but he comes back in. One thing cool about thing is like he falls on like out of orbit and like burns up, and he's just like, I don't know, like a little corpse, like a little husk of a man. And then he like gradually just like heals back to like full. It's kind of cool, right? I mean, I guess I'll move Khan up a little bit. And then that's more of an even distribution. So that's pretty solid. Yeah, leave a like on the video if you enjoyed this. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of this. Taking into account that this is just for what I think the relevance of based on what I've read as their role in the Horus Heresy, not just like my favorite ones. So yeah, and please fill one out yourself and mention it in the comments. I'd love to take a look. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time.